Hey everyone, welcome to the BarTalk podcast. My name is Todd Albin. I'm the managing partner of Albin Oldner Law, and I have one of my esteemed colleagues, Monica Peters, with me today.
Hi, thank you for tuning in. It's good to be here.
So Monica, you and I go way back. We've known each other for a number of years. Why don't you take a moment to introduce yourself to the audience?
Okay, sure. My name is Monica Peters. I've been practicing family law in Texas and mostly in Collin County for about 16 years now. And I'm a partner here at Albin Oldner Law Group and have been here for off and on for several years now. But my most recent tenure is about 4 years, a little over that. And I have two girls, a 13-year-old and a special needs 6-year-old, and my husband and my kids and I live in Murphy. So, we live in the Collin County area, but that's a little bit about me. What about you, Todd?
Well, it's awesome to get to know Monica. I've known her for a number of years. One of the things I'll tell you is one of the first guests on the podcast with me is for a reason. She's a very simple, straight shooter. I call her my country girl. She is no BS. She tells it like it is. And tell us a little bit, Monica, about your boomerang history. I call you a boomerang, and you're one of our only boomerangs. I take great pride in the fact that you're a boomerang. I know when you came back, I dumped a lot of work on your desk, but talk to us a little bit about working for the firm in the beginning and then your departure and coming back and why.
Sure. I think you're asking the question because your feelings are hurt because I left. But
I'm a little bitter. A little bitter.
That's okay. Well, I guess when I first started here, I was a younger attorney, obviously, at that time. I'd been practicing, I want to say about 5 years at that point. So I was, had experience, was still learning, but, still building my own book of business. But came into the firm and I worked with the excellent family law attorneys here at that point, and really loved working here. I've never not enjoyed working here. But I guess I got a little wooed away by a big Dallas firm and, got a little enamored with the fancy office downtown. And
they always leave me for the money. It
wasn't even really that. I don't know. I guess it was a little bit that, or I thought it was going to be that. Needless to say, it wasn't everything that I thought it was going to be, not to knock where I ended up going, but especially after they got bought out by a huge national firm, it just wasn't the right place for me. So I wanted to come back, and I was very happy to have the opportunity to come back.
Well, we were happy to have you back. Obviously, we knew you were a talent from before. Obviously, what people don't know about me is how personal I take it when attorneys and people leave the firm. So I didn't talk to Monica for a while, and I did pout. I did kick my feet, but we've since made up. Tell me, in the first part of working for the firm, how it differed from when you came back.
So in the first part, I want to say, and I'm trying to remember how many attorneys we had then.
It would have been probably around 8 to 10.
Okay, so we were smaller than when I came back. Right. I felt like then we were very much a Collin County firm, which we are still a Collin County firm, but I feel like we go more places now. Obviously, we're in Dallas County, we're in Denton County. And I've got cases in Rockwall and Wiley right now, so we're much broader in the Metroplex. I think ours don't the civil litigators go pretty much all over the state.
Yeah, it's Collin, Dallas, and Denton, but we are in Houston and pretty much all over the state.
Yeah. So it's the caseload is broader, I guess. We definitely have more attorneys. We had great attorneys then. I can't say enough about the talent of the attorneys that we have here now. It's just, so there are a lot of things that are the same. I think culturally, we're still a laid back, hardworking, but have lots of fun type firm. So, culturally it's very similar.
Yeah, and from your experience of leaving and coming back, Would you agree with me that our culture is very different here than most law firms?
Oh, absolutely.
It's kind of a very laid-back culture for attorneys. We don't act like typical attorneys.
No, and I think that's a good thing. I think it's good for our clients because I feel like our firm has always had a primary focus on service. It's, we're results driven, but really what we want to do for our clients is give them top level service that they need to have. Really, everybody needs to have responsive attorneys, talented attorneys. And when you have a more laid back culture where you're not constantly getting bogged down by what other firms might consider necessities, like I'm trying to even think, like lots of other firms have lots and lots of meetings,
right, where
you just go and you just have meetings and your attorney is wasting all their time on meetings that have nothing to do with actually helping the clients, and it's paperwork, and we don't do that here. It's really about the work, and I appreciate that.
Well, and I appreciate you sharing it with us. Obviously, I've been the owner of this firm for 22 years, so I don't have a lot. I have prior experience to starting this firm, and it was a different culture, and one of the reasons I wanted to start the firm was for the culture that you mentioned, so I appreciate the fact that at least we're getting that culture established here, and the laid-back style that we want our attorneys to feel. With that being said, I do want to bring up a little bit of our past in that when you left and when you came back, part of what the laid-back culture offered you was the ability to be flexible in your family needs that needed to be met. That was part of it as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, especially having a special needs child, but really for any parent, you're going to have things that you're called on to do during the work day because that's when school's in, or you got to leave early to go get your kid to practice. But, when you do have a special needs child, there are a lot of appointments, for example, and sometimes your kid is sick. And sometimes, I'm coming up here towards the end of the year, I'll have to work from home a fair amount because my daughter's going to have brain surgery in January. We can't let her go to school. So she has to stay home so she can be well for that surgery. So this firm has really handled those kinds of issues in a very unique way. It's always, clients first. You got to take care of your clients, but family is important, and those obligations are just as important as taking care of everything else. And so, we've set everything up here to where it's just as easy for me to get just as much work done at my house as it is for me to get work done here. And of course, some of us give our clients our cell phone number. I mean, all of my clients have my cell phone number because we do have that flexibility, which means I'm not always sitting at my desk, but I am always available to my clients. So being able to do everything I need to do to take care of my family, while also doing my job still, you can't really put a price on that.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on first on the podcast as we're getting started here, is because of our relationship goes back so far, and the trust that we have to have for each other. When you came back, obviously we had that trust from before, but being able to trust you to just know that you're doing a good job for our clients and for our firm, and then giving you the flexibility to do that rather than putting the constraints on it, you really have to have that trust between each other. And so I think that's why us sitting down initially and talking lets people see who we are and what we do, and that it's not the typical attorney law firm, and that we are very much real people and do life together and trust. Let me go back to it. One of the things that we've seen in our industry a lot is, as everybody has seen, I guess, is the change in working conditions, as you mentioned, kind of working from home. We know the legal field to be the last adopters of any change. We had to get through COVID together, and we had to figure out how to do that as well, huh?
Yeah, and I think we were able to pivot faster than a lot of other people in all the different industries were able to, because fortunately we were already, I'm gonna call us a paperless office. We were a fileless office. I mean, we certainly we have copy machines and printers back there, and we sometimes light them up, and they're like on fire. They're so hot from use, but that's more because we have to take stuff like to court, for example.
Well, and some of us old people, we just can't get rid of the paper.
I know, you're scared. No, but that's not true though, Todd, because you were already getting rid of the files. We didn't have files when I came back. I mean, that is one big change. There were no files here when I came back. And a lot of firms say they're going to go paperless. I mean, I think every firm I've ever worked for has said something about going paperless. And this is the only firm I've ever worked for that is actually pretty much paperless. All of our files are on a server. Yeah. And that's the other reason why it's so easy to work from home. So when COVID hit, there were a lot of attorneys scrambling because all the files were up at the office, but they couldn't go up to the office. And so they were, they'd have staff, like 1 or 2 people, because you couldn't be together, scanning and scanning and scanning and scanning files for weeks, trying to get everything on a server, right? But we didn't have to do that. We already had laptops. I mean, other people were scrambling to get laptops. Apparently some people use PCs still. Did not know this, but I didn't feel like it was a huge transition.
Yeah. Well, we've pushed ourselves on all the technology fronts as they've come available. And everyone here knows that all the young people are pushing the old people here to try new things. Look at this old guy doing a podcast. We never thought that would happen. But what I will say is we do push the limits of technology, I think, and we push the limits on just about everything to try and provide the best service to our clients. And you come up with a lot of good ideas to help our firm. Tell us a little bit about your workout group.
Oh, well, you may not believe it from looking at me, but I love Peloton. I love Peloton. I have the bike, and I didn't initially. Initially, all I had was the app, and not that I'm not doing like a plug for Peloton today, but I really enjoy it. And I learned that a lot of the other attorneys and paralegals and staff in our office also had the app or were interested in the app and or liked to work out. So we started a Peloton group with, you can do tags. If you're familiar with Peloton, you can do a tag. And our tag we came up with is AOL, which is not for America Online. It's for Albin Oldner Law. It's AOL, don't object to sweat. And we have little challenges every week, and we can earn points from completing the challenge. And, at the end, once you hit 50 points, you get a gift card to various different places of your choice. And so anyway, it's something fun to kind of build camaraderie. And
it's just kind of another way that I appreciate you taking leadership in the firm, which is people think that's not a big deal. But again, I've told you personally, and I'll tell you again, that we appreciate that leadership that shows, hey, we work together, we spend a lot of time together, and we want to have fun together. And we have happy hours, we do things like that. But let's get into some of the dirt about the law firm and the practice of law. We talked a little bit about what we do, how we do it. Not to brag on the law firm, but let's get into the legal field a little bit and talk to me about what you really like or dislike about practicing law. And we know it's not glamorous. We know, especially in the family law arena, we know I have some experience in that before moving into the litigation side. But talk to me a little bit about like what you really like about it and don't like. I really want to hear about the don't likes.
Okay. Well, I will say when I first started practicing family law, which was right out of law school, I hated it. But some people may not know it is really difficult to get the first job out of law school because you have no experience.
Everybody just thinks you make a lot of money.
Right. They're like, okay, now go be rich. And that doesn't happen at all. And you get paid very little as a brand new lawyer because you're still essentially in school. Yeah. I mean, you're learning. When you leave law school, you have a lot of law packed into your head, but you don't have very much how to practice law.
No practical.
Right. So you land where you land for most people. And I landed in a family law firm in Denton, actually. And I absolutely hated it because of a lot of things. It's high drama. But for obvious reasons. I mean, it is kind of, if there's a dramatic area of law, it's one of the more dramatic area of laws where there's lots of conflict all the time. And, people can be petty. Certainly every disagreement is not petty, but I have had a case before that we could not settle because both people wanted the blender. And I wish I was making that up, but I am not. It's that kind of thing drove me nuts. It is a lot of client management. Yeah. And that is not something they teach you at all in law school. And so it took me a long time to understand how to communicate to a client so that they understood what their options were and so that they could make a good choice, because frankly most people who are in a family law situation are not in a good mental space to be making decisions that are going to have a huge impact on their lives. And so once I got over that learning curve, which probably took me 2 or 3 years. Around the 3-year mark, I stopped hating family law. And I genuinely, I mean, it's going to sound like I'm just saying this because I'm being recorded, but I love family law. I wouldn't switch for the world. Number one, I don't want to learn how to do anything else.
Yeah. Well, you kind of become trained in it. Once the light bulb goes on, you can see the big picture. And when that happens, you begin to parse out some of the emotions from the practice.
Exactly. But I do genuinely love it now. I mean, I think the things that I don't like about it are just probably the things that I hate the most about family law are just the parts that I find to be very boring. Yeah. Like drafting. I don't hate it really, but I don't love drafting orders. I don't love drafting pleadings. Right. I'm good at it, but it's dry. Yeah. But it's important, so you have to do it, you know.
And there's a lot of counseling that goes into the divorces. I know from doing it before myself, practicing family law and then actually personally going through a divorce, you're not in your best mind in the time you're going through it. It feels like your life's falling apart. And a lot of times we have to be there for our clients to almost get them back into sanity thought, right? Into normal conscious thought and do what's right for them. And they really become people that lean on us and trust us to give them advice because they know they're not thinking straight. I know I couldn't do family law. I ultimately did it in the beginning to pay the bills and make money. We talked about that, but...
Well, tell me what made you switch? Because you really don't do any family law now.
Right. As you know, I like to bring in some of my business clients and hand them to you, but I match them up by personality. Like, I know this business guy is kind of rough and tough or, really candid. Then he usually gets to your office because I know you'll be able to manage him and control him. If I have a female executive on a divorce side, it may be a different attorney in our office that I think has the personality fit to match it. But really matching those skill sets is how we do it now. Back then, we were taking whatever we could get in the door. And I can't even tell you what we did divorces for back then, but I couldn't do it. I personally couldn't do it. I talked about the emotional sides of it, the amount of stories that you hear about people's lives. And I think I was constantly checking my wife's phone and going behind her car to see if she, it's like you hear everybody cheating and you hear all the bad stories about life and you start thinking, well, wait, these seem like normal people. Is that happening to me?
Okay, so and that's a huge part of it, but you're dipping into stuff that I don't think anybody probably knows about you. So you are currently married, yes?
Yes, remarried.
But you're not sneaking around looking at
this was I had to get out of the practice of family law because I was making me crazy and I was acting like the jealous husband.
Right.
I just couldn't handle the emotional stories that came with it. And so when I talk about you being my country girl that kind of takes everything with a grain of salt, it's really more about handling all that and not getting the ups and downs and it personally affecting you like it was doing to me.
Yeah, and I do think that's a big part of family law. In maturing as a family law attorney is learning how to not internalize all of that personal drama that your clients are dealing with. It's not to say that you don't care. I certainly care that my clients are dealing with all of those things, but they're not paying me to be upset for them. Yeah. They're paying me to give them legal advice based on the law, based on the judge that they have, and what I think a likely outcome is if we go to court. And that gives them the ability to decide, okay, as much as I don't like the settlement offer on the table, or maybe they do like it, you have to have something to compare to what will the judge do if I don't reach an agreement. And of course there's no, I don't know what a judge will do every time. There's usually a range because in family law, judges have a lot of discretion. And I think that's something that other lawyers and other practice areas don't like about family law is that a whole lot of it is kind of just up to what the judge feels like is the right thing. And that's going to vary from judge to judge. But
that's some of the real value in our service, right? Is trying cases in the counties that we try them in. we get familiar with the judges to understand what their likes and dislikes are,
Yeah.
so that we can kind of present the case in a way that we know the judges personally, in a way that may be better accepted. Obviously, there's still a guess as to what the outcome is going to be, with some predictability based on our experience. Talk to me about this. We were talking about divorces and going through marriage. I mean, all the different struggles in that. I was divorced. All that stuff back then seems so long ago. But I'll say, being married now again and with having 7 kids, it doesn't even seem like there's time for any of that anymore.
Yeah.
How do you keep up with the time, given special needs child, working here at this law firm, all the stuff you do to help lead this law firm? How do you do it?
I mean, it's a couple things. First of all, sleep is optional. So I get sleep, but, yesterday I was up at 6 to get myself ready and then get my child ready to get her to school at 7:30 and then up to the courthouse for a hearing. And then I had to go pick her up from school right after the hearing to take her to an appointment and then to take her to therapy, her physical therapy after her appointment. And then, I don't think I sat down until about 10:30 last night. And it's not like that every day, but there are days that are like that.
But I guess all the emotion and the real seriousness of those matters help you put this into perspective as to practicing family law about what's really important.
Maybe, here's what I'll say. I think for every client who comes in, their case is the most important case. And I understand that. It's their children, it's their life savings. It's incredibly important. So it's not that I don't feel like it's important, but you just can't let it take over your life. And you don't want an attorney who will let it take over their life, because then they're not going to be giving you sound advice. They're going to be giving you emotional advice, which is not,
right.
I mean, you can get that from your friends, right? You need legal advice, and that's what you are paying us for. But I mean, just as far as how do you juggle everything? You have help. I mean, my husband is a really good father, and he's a really good husband, and he does a lot. My in-laws live here, thank goodness. And I work for a firm that allows me to leave the courthouse and go pick up my child for her appointments. So, I mean, it's a combination of a lot of things. I don't think that my life would work at another firm, to be completely honest. And that's not to say that those firms are bad, but it's just not a good fit for me, because I do have a lot of extra, demands on my time.
Yeah, and you would say that having your experience now, it's very important that this firm might not be the right fit for every attorney, but the attorneys, you mentioned young attorneys coming out looking for jobs, more important than pay, which is what we're all looking for when we come out, right? What's the most I can get? And I got a lot of debt to pay from student loans. The fit and the culture fit and the ability to develop, looking back, is probably just as important as anything, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we've had attorneys who have worked here, who I know very well just from personally knowing them before they even came to work here, and they're phenomenal attorneys, and they were not a good fit for this firm, and this firm was not a good fit for them, so they left. And they're doing incredibly well, either out on their own or at another firm, and it's fantastic for them. But, I think that every attorney has to decide what's most important to them. And if, for some people, it might be the paycheck. And that's not to say that we don't get paid here. I think we're all we're doing fine. Like, we are compensated well. But there are some people who have other goals besides just doing really good work and having some work-life balance, and if this isn't a good fit, then they need to go somewhere else.
Right.
It's not a knock on us, and it's not a knock on them.
Right, but that's important advice to young attorneys, and also the transparency of the law firm, I think, is critical in that. I know you and I have had some very honest discussions about what's good and bad about our firm and what we might change to make it better. I think the transparency is a key element that keeps attorneys working for firms. They can see where it's going. They can see, I think there's this idea that maybe the partners make a lot of money, and one day I'll be a partner and I'll make a lot of money. That's vanished. Mm-hmm. And you know a lot about me personally outside the law firm as well. So you know kind of where I live and what I do. And we live similar lives. So it's kind of cool that you're the first guest with me on the podcast to kind of talk about this, because it's a real look into our lives. It's not what people imagine, right?
Yeah, no, I think that, I think people think that lawyers just make lots and lots and lots of money. And I understand why they have that impression. It's because legal fees are expensive.
Yeah.
And if you don't have an attorney who will admit that it's really expensive, then you have the wrong attorney, because it's expensive. But what people don't understand is practicing law is expensive too. So, I mean, it takes a lot to keep the light on, and we've got lots of support staff, and we need all of that support staff. And, that's part of why the fees are what they are.
Yeah.
But,
well, I mentioned trust in the beginning between us, and I think no better example of that than one of the most nervous cases. I've been doing this for, like I said, 25, 26 years. You actually and your family were actually a client of our firm, so that was probably the most nervous I've been, is representing your family and your their pilots and their aircraft and all the stuff that they do. I really had a good time getting to know that side of your family and the business. I'll tell you, most people think as lawyers that there's not a lot to life outside of practicing law, but one of our biggest connection is really that, some of the things we've done outside of law. So let me ask you this, given our trust and all the things I've been bragging about you during the podcast, I just think, as we start kind of wrapping this up, I want to just kind of ask one last question. We had a day here recently where our family law section, we talk about family law and civil. We have two different sections. The family law section went to the state fair, and I wasn't invited. Mm-hmm. So I just want to know if you were in charge of that, or who left me off the list to go to the state fair.
I was in charge of scheduling it, and I really think that the full blame lies with Chris Oldner. It is definitely his fault. He said, look, we're going to go to the fair, and it's going to be for our section only.
But don't tell us.
We don't want anyone over there on the far side of the office to be there, because they are no fun.
I know.
That's pretty much how it went down. So you're going to need to talk to Chris.
Well, he won't be coming on this podcast for a long time. Let's just say that. I will be leaving this podcast to go to the state fair. And I'm not
next year?
Yes. I'm sorry. It's already left town.
It's over.
It's already left town. But thanks for joining me today. I know some of the times when we start talking, we just enjoy each other's company. I hope some of the information was helpful to people to get a glimpse into you and what your life's like as an attorney and what our firm's like. But more importantly, that we're able to share some insight into what the practice of law is like for maybe attorneys that are interested, or even clients to want to know what attorneys really do. I know we didn't really have an outline of what we wanted to cover today. Hopefully it's been fun for you. It's been a blast for me, and can't wait to talk to you again on air.
All right. Thanks, Todd.